ladies and gentlemen. Hikaru, another victory. Not bad.
So far, so good.
So far, if you name so far, this is your best tournament ever?
Yes. I mean, I've had other good results, but I wouldn't say it's my greatest yet because I still have 2 more rounds to play. And,
No, but so far, I mean.
So far, yes.
Yeah.
So far.
And all the other contestants are dropping points today. So, how would you estimate your chances at the moment, percent-wise?
Well, I'm half point up now, so I think I have reasonably good chances. But
who do you play in the penultimate in the last round?
Well, tomorrow I fight against Vladimir Kramnik, which is I wouldn't say it's an easy pairing, but lately when I play him, we have exciting games, so I'm pretty excited to play against him tomorrow. And then in the last one I play Wang Hao. Another player who's very solid, and I'll try my best to win another game. But you know, the goal really is to not lose. That's the main.
Basically, because 1 out of 2 would normally secure at least the shared victory in the tournament.
Right. Yeah. I think it's just I'm gonna try not to lose. That's the main thing.
Okay, thank you. Well, can you please show us your game of today?
Okay, sure. So today I was black against Ian Nepomniachtchi. I haven't really seen him at many tournaments because his rise has been so sudden, but he's quite a strong player and he's only 20, so I think going forward he'll definitely be in a lot of these tournaments. All right, so the opening was e4, c6, d4, d5, e5, the advanced variation of the Caro-Kann. I think this came as a bit of a surprise to Ian. I don't think he was expecting this. Probably was expecting a Najdorf or Berlin or something different at the least. So he played this move h4, which lately has become very popular. I lost a game which I try my best not to remember in the NH tournament against Peter Svidler, who I seem to lose every time I play him. And so this line, I assume Ian had looked at it before the game, or had looked at the line at least. So I played h5 following the game that I had played previously. So c4, e6, knight c3, knight e7, and now he played this move, knight g to e2. And here I came up with this move, bishop g4. I'm not sure if it's a novelty or not. I seem to recall that Karpov mentioned somewhere that it was an idea, so I just decided to play it. I guess, you know, if a former world champion thinks it's good and you know, it's one of his openings, then I might as well follow the suggestion at the least. So I played bishop g4, f3, bishop f5, knight g3, bishop g6, bishop g5. The main point of bishop g4 is that the white pawn is now on f3 as opposed to f2, whereas if white were able to have the bishop on e2, the pawn on h5 would be under attack here. So with the pawn being on f3, you have to play this, and then you have to waste another tempo on f4. Right. So here I played the move queen to b6, queen d2, knight to d7, and this is probably where the game really started, I think. There are many options here. Ian played a3. Rook c1 was another option we were looking at afterwards, but it seems that after d takes c4, bishop takes c4, rook d8, queen to f2, the idea is that you're threatening knight takes e5, and then there's a discovery on the queen on d2. So queen f2, and now this move f6, bishop e3, and knight to d5. And it seems as though black should be completely fine here. I'm just going to play bishop e7 and then castle. And the pawns in the center here, it's probably favorable for me. So that's why Ian played this move a3. And I played this move f6. In the game that I mentioned before against Peter Svidler, we actually had this position, I believe, and I played the move queen to b3. And I seem to recall there was something with a rook h3 maneuver and knight to e4 attacking the queen on b3. So it took me a second to remember how happy I was that this pawn was on f3 and not f2 in this game. So queen b3. basically I'm trying to just take the pawn on c4, and then I'll, if I get this, and probably b5 at some point, and something on the queen side, at any rate. So that's why Ian took on, or actually, sorry. Actually, I threw in 2 moves first. f6, bishop e3, and then I played queen b3. So now, take on d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, and now I play this move, queen takes d5. In the game, I used a few minutes considering this move, c takes d5, and pretty much, I really had no idea what was going on in this variation after rook c1, f takes e5, rook c3, queen a4, d takes e5, knight takes e5, and now this move, rook to c7. I strongly suspect that the computers are probably going to say there's some resource for black here, which is completely winning, because obviously a pawn is winning according to, being up a pawn is winning according to the computers. But after looking at this, I saw this move rook b8, and I really, like I said, I didn't know what was going on, and it seemed very risky to go for something like this without having a clear idea of whether I was better or whether I was just going to get crushed from this position. So that's why I opted to take on d5 with the queen and played rook c1, knight b6. And this is where Ian, I think, used most of his time. He used roughly 35 to 40 minutes here. And I think the reason this occurred was because he sort of made a choice here to go for a variation which was very aggressive, as opposed to playing something which is roughly equal, and there isn't a whole lot of play. For instance, he probably could have just traded on f6 and played this move, bishop d3, takes, queen takes d3, castles, and maybe even something like, well, just knight e2 here, for instance. And it's, optically it looks like black might be a little bit better, but it seems to me that white should be fine here. And like I said, Ian probably didn't want to play a simple slow position in this game. I think clearly after his last 2 results or games, he was looking for more. So that's why here, someone might be 6. Right, so that's why here Ian played this move, knight to e2. And I took on e5 and he took back. And originally when I first was calculating this position after taking on d5 with the queen, I thought I could very simply just trade queens on d2. And after bishop takes d2, something like castles, knight f4, and just bishop f5, and it's probably all right for black, but it seems to me that it should be a little bit easier for white to play here. Probably just bishop e2, and at some point maybe even g4, and I just didn't really want to deal with this in the game, and I noticed that pawn on e5 seemed to be hanging, so after using a bit of time and calculating, I simply didn't see a clear-cut way for Ian to improve his position here after sacrificing the pawn. So I pretty much just figured, why not go for it? Because I felt like, unlike that other variation with rook c7, the position here, I might lose, but at least I'm going to get some play. It's not like that other one where if I miss something, I'm just going to lose immediately. So bishop d4, queen c7, queen g5 is played. And originally, I miscalculated here. I thought I could just play bishop f7. And the point being that I thought after bishop takes g7, I very simply had this move rook g8, and once the bishop moves, I win the queen, or I win the bishop on g7. The problem is that there's this move bishop to e5 here. And after this, I might be okay if I take on g5, take on c7, and move the rook somewhere. I don't know, for instance, rook b5 maybe. And I'm probably still okay, but I overlooked that, and so I kind of didn't want to deal with any of that, which is why I chose to play this move. Bishop 2. Bishop to f5 instead of bishop f7. Here Ian played g4, which I think is pretty much an only move. Perhaps knight g3 is possible, but after knight g3, I think I was just going to play bishop e7, queen takes g7, and once again I think there's a trick here. Yeah, I can play this trick similar to the game with rook h7. And if white tries to take this knight on g6 or b6, and I take back, there's this move queen to g8 check, and once the king moves, the rook on a8 hangs.